Welcome, everybody, back to Segal Talks here at the Martin E. Segal Theater Center. And my name is Frank Henschker, and it's week 18 of our talks with theater artists from New York, the US, but mostly from all around the world to get an update how this moment of the time of Corona is experienced by artists as human beings, as in their everyday life, in their days, but also what consequences it has for their artistic work, and also, of course, for their thinking and how they use this time and what is going through your mind. When we had Eugenio Barba on our talk, he reminded us that the time before you shoot an arrow, the time of incubation, as Susanna Kennedy said, this is the important time, not when you already is launching. So in case there is a time after Corona, now is the time where everybody is thinking on what we are doing, what's essential, what's not. And artists always have been on the right side of social justice, on the complex fight for freedom and liberty. And it is of importance to listen to them, but to really listen to them. What they say is important, and we have to take notice. And perhaps we did not listen carefully enough with all the works artists have been presenting about the state of the planet, the Weltzustand, the state of the world, as we call it. Our motto is a bit Bertolt Brecht's dictum, new times need new forms of theater. Definitely we are in a new time on planet Earth. At the moment we are inside a catastrophe movie, but we're not watching it. We are inside, and nobody knows what will happen, where it ends. We have over 4 million infections here in the United States. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, says it's 10, 13, 15 times more. So 40 or 50 millions are infected. We have 150,000 people who died. Most probably it's much, much more. And last week, it's been 1,000 deaths every day. So numbers are going up as everywhere in the world. Even China is experiencing serious outbreaks again. And so we are all very concerned. If there is ever a time when art needs to speak, if it has something to say, perhaps it is now. And we all who read and look at images, films, poetry, recordings, we know what we are missing. And theater is a form of live art with the community at the center. And at the moment, we do not have it. So what is changing? What has already changed? What will be changing? A big question. And with us today, we have a significant worker in the vineyard of theater, performance, and especially dance, someone from the great country of Indonesia, which is a country we all should pay more attention to in Asia, not only because it has the largest Indonesian population, largest Muslim population in the world, with 17, almost 18,000 islands, 5,000-6,000 inhabited, but also how they are able to combine contemporary, modern, postmodern, post-traumatic work with significant traditional art. We already had Ria from the Paper Moon company with us. And so today we have with us Helly Minarti, and it's a great pleasure to have you with us. Helly, where are you? What time is it?
I'm in Yogyakarta, or we call it Jogja, shortened, and it's 11. It's at 11 hours difference, so it's 12 hours difference. So it's like 11 o'clock now.
11 o'clock.
11 p.m. Yeah.
Close to midnight.
Close to midnight. Yes.
Yeah, yes. It's about an hour flight away from Jakarta. If you go in a car, if I understood right, with all the traffic, it's going to take 10, 14 hours, but these are two significant cities, of course, in Indonesia. Let me tell you a little bit about Helly. She is Jakarta-born, and she works as an independent dance scholar and curator, and she is rethinking radical strategies to connect theory and practice. And it is important for us to know what our Asian colleagues are doing, how they are influencing our work, how they've been influenced by, the theory that comes out of the Western world, but now they are adapting and creating something new. She's interested in historiographies of choreography as a discursive practice vis-a-vis the eclectic knowledge of the human body, nature, connection. And her ongoing curatorial project is Jejak-旅Tabi Exchange, if I say that right, Wandering Contemporary Asian Performance. And she holds a PhD from Indonesia, actually in Georgia, if I understand right. That's where you got it?
No,
No?
From Roehampton University in London.
In London.
Yeah.
And she is setting up right now LINGKARAN,
LINGKARAN choreography, yeah.
It's a collaborative research platform focused to expand the critical notions. Tell us a little bit about the situation in the moment in Indonesia. What is happening? Can you hear me?
Last week, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the situation in Indonesia and what is happening.
So in terms of the pandemic,
yes.
In regards to the pandemic, it's been in the last 7 days, or a week, we've been seeing again like increased cases nationwide. I think now it's like almost 100,000, infected, and I think our national rate death toll is like 5% or something. But I think Jogja, because it's small, compared to Jakarta is 14 million people, while in Jogja it's not even 500,000. Like, so for Indonesian, it's deemed small, maybe not compared to Europe. So it's in Jogja is I would say we're faring much better than all those big cities because we are small and the culture is slow. We're attuned to being slow anyway. So when when in March we were like we had to quarantine ourselves, I think it's compared to my friends in Jakarta, because I am Jakartan. I mean, I spend most of my whole life in Jakarta. It's a different, it's a different take on emotionally and psychologically. So yeah, now in Jogja we have like 500, almost 587, I think, positive, but with recovery rate higher than the national one, because I've been watching it like every other day, and the local government is kind of like relatively open, because they put the figures like every day at 4 o'clock, and then they also created this website, so I can actually check within my neighborhood like how many people positive, or what they call it. They have this several categories, like like patient in observation and people in being observed because they were like exposed to certain things, so yeah, or waiting for tests.
So yeah, I think you feel the government is doing a good job? Is it some sense of
national one? I think in the beginning it was like kind of like in denial. I think our Minister of Health, he said something unwise, if not stupid. Like in the beginning, it's like he said that no, I think we will be fine. Like in February. So it's kind of like late. I mean, we were not ready. Also, like although by February, like you could see like some big cases after Wuhan, but and for a while, I think is for weeks, I think is they try to figure out. So it's like so much confusion from their side. It's kind of like frustrating for us to really to really follow. But I think I would say that there is this it's just like the dynamic of Indonesian society, I think, and I think it's much tense and much how do you say it, in Jakarta. because it's the center of politics, and Jakarta is always prone to political feud and, you know, arguments and everything. But I'm just lucky, I think to have moved to Jogja. I think it's a different space for me. So, yeah.
Where were you when it all started? Was there a severe lockdown right away?
Well,
did it last?
Believe you me, because I traveled from December to early March, and my itinerary was crazy. So first I went to Singapore for a night for a talk, and then I went to Reykjavik in Iceland for a month. And that's where we heard, because, you know, the news was like 31st of December, and you know, we all heard about it, but didn't really think that it would be like, yeah, I was alarmed because I knew that my itinerary, you know, was kind of like crazy. Then after that, I had to go to the Philippines in one of the islands to do this project. And that's where you start getting intense, because I was in Rojas City, actually a small city in Visayas region, Visayas archipelago in, I think, 40 minutes by 40 minutes flying from Manila. And just 3 days or 1 day before we opened the platform, my friend said, "Oh, Helly, there's, you know, there's they found these 3 Chinese, they hospitalized these 3 Chinese person, and they were tested, but then before the test came out, I mean, they released the patient, and it's only like, you know, the next city, so it's only 1 hour drive." So then after releasing the patient, they discovered that they were actually positive. So then the police, you know, try to locate them. So it was a bit like, then my friend, the Filipino artist, was like stressed about it. And I was like, okay. Then in the middle of this, for me, is, you know, it's clear that it's bigger than it could be. A bigger danger for us. So I just read what I could hold on. And then I just went to the pharmacy, and then I bought some vitamin C, because I think there's no other things that you could do, you know, apart from, you know, returning to your body, and then, you know, paying attention to your body. Because that's what I did in Rojas. Because after that, I had to go to Yokohama for another meeting. And that's 2 days after I arrived in Yokohama. No, I arrived 2 days after the cruise. Do you remember the cruise that discovered the patient, like, you know? Yeah. And I was like, why this corona thing following me, like, you know, Rojas City and then Yokohama, and it's so close. I mean, you know, I stayed very close to the harbor, and I could listen, I could hear, like, you know, the sirens of ambulance, like every now and then, you know, with people, with medical team with that suit. So yeah, it's kind of like following me until I arrive in my next destination. And then my friend called me that you know, the first positive cases you know, in Indonesia happened. And believe you me, I knew these people because it's colleagues and friends. Actually, it's a mother and two daughters, and the mother was my colleague at Indonesian Dance Festival. So it's it's kind of like strange and weird and alarming experience.
Yeah, so it's a real.
Surreal. That's the word. Yeah.
So I know, I think Ria from the Paper Moon company said there was some kind of a lockdown. People were asked to stay at home. Did you do that too? And what were you thinking about? What was on your mind?
I think I did for a good full 3 weeks. I mean, I just did my shopping like once a week. Normally, I did my shopping like once every 3 days or something. So that 3 weeks between I think late of March until whole of middle of April, I kind of like stay at home. But then again, Ramadan came anyway, and in Ramadan people slow down in a way, calmer. So it's kind of like for a month we kind of like observe either you're Muslim or not is the at least here. And then I think exactly in Eid al-Fitr, I kind of like broke that staying at home. I remember I met my friends, like 3 of them, and then we watched film at home. So it's slowly try to meet people again, but in small numbers and only the closest ones.
Mm. So how's the situation at the moment for performing artists? Are spaces open? Do people rehearse?
So it's so funny. I think during this quarantine, it's kind of like everyone in dance, for example, they did a lot of like video, screening, either home production, and most of them, I think, took place in Instagram. And I think even the government kind of like encouraged that. I think they commissioned 40 young dancers to create like 5-minute like pieces, and then they kind of like live stream in YouTube. And I think for the few weeks it was like a bit too much because everybody was doing it, and I was kind of like I don't know, I found it very strange, and I resisted to accept that as because people start talking that this might be a new normal. I was like, what is normal? What is new normal? It's not normal. I mean, with performing arts, we should not be. To me, it's like why rushing? Why rushing to change because it's too soon and it's too early. I think my personal response was to slow down and really take time to. So I mean, I did a lot of like gardening or reading and things that I couldn't do while I was so busy with with work. So yeah, I think now it's kind of like calmed down, and now they start doing festival, but online, but recorded. I mean, just before this, I mean, I watched this wayang, shadow puppet live stream from the university that I'm teaching, because it's at the end of semester and it's kind of like tradition for them to do some, live performance, and now they did this live. But then again, the technology is not up to it because you could see the delays. It's not like, So yeah, I think people here start embracing this as a new form. But to me is I need more time. For example, the Jejak-旅that I did. So it's basically we do like the way we do is to connect 2 cities in the region, meaning that Japan, Southeast Asia.
Festival, what you created, right?
Yeah, but it's actually we.
One city, it actually, the festival itself goes from city to city. Normally companies go from city to city. No?
Yeah, but it depends. So we started with questions. For example, like this is the second edition. The second edition, we like to connect Rojas City, Visayas Island. Actually, it was Rojas was not the first option. It was Negros province in the Philippines, and Naha in Okinawa. So we like to look up and close about these two cities in terms of like performance practices, and because there are some similarities, but not quite. For example, like both are like islands, like an archipelago thing, and both have this historical connection with American imperialism, like Rojas City and Visayas Archipelago and Naha. So I mean, there are some issues like political and cultural issue that seems to be like connect them. Then we start with questions, and then we start meeting the artists and curators, and and in Rojas City we collaborated with an arts collective called Green Papaya. It's actually visual arts collective, but one of the member is dancer and choreographer. So it's, and then, so we kind of like program with them. And then in Naha, we collaborate with Masashi Nomura, is a curator, used to be based in Naha, but now lives in Nagano. Then, so it's like in January, it took place in Rojas, and the Naha should have been in August, end of August, early September.
And that
now
was
is
of course.
that was canceled. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit.
And so I mean,
go ahead.
So it's in the beginning we're thinking to resort to this online platform in October. But then again, we were like, hang on, like at that time, it's also the practicalities because of the funding. The main funder said, you have to do it like, at the latest by October. But when they reconsidered, and then they said, okay, you can actually stretch it until next year, we decided to take time. So, I mean, we still hope that we can do the big thing, like, live as we plan sometimes next year. But in the meantime, we're planning to launch the archive of Rojas, because the idea is to connect this Rojas and Naha. So, I mean, we will launch the archive of Rojas maybe by December. And also the idea is not only festival in terms of like performing art, performances, but more like the artistic practice of the artists, in the region. So we kind of like, also we've been following some artists process, making work. So for example, I don't know if you know Yudai Kamisato from Tokyo.
Yeah, the Segal.
Yeah, I mean, he's been following us. He's been following these platforms in the first one in Jogja 2 years ago. And now he did the follow-up of this. He did some residency and research residency in Bangkok. And he kind of like shared it in Rojas, his research. And then he just performed the next stage is an audio play, I think 2 weeks ago in Theater Formen, Germany, a Sea of Islands Festival. And then he's thinking to develop to something, with the visual. I don't know what he's working on now, but we kind of like follow him, and also the other artists that, So it's more like process-based than product-based.
Yeah.
I would say.
So tell us a bit about the contemporary scene in Indonesia and this emerging Asian network of theater companies, festivals, platforms. Do you think something new is emerging there, something that is different from European or American initiatives? Is there a specific Asian theory and practice combination we should know about?
I think we're looking for different connection to those. Of course, you know, we intimate. I think it's in theater. It's happening more than in dance, because in dance we haven't really done our homework when it comes to theorizing it, like, you know, or philosophizing it, like, you know, and connecting it to the global discourse. But in terms of theater, I mean, you know, the connection has been always there, from Arto to Brecht and to Unit Barba, and, you know, and but then again, I think the present generation, they try to connect also by looking at Indonesia beyond Jakarta, beyond Java. You know, like I think Theater Garasi and Jonet, who helped, you know, our connection, they try to do address some issue like dramaturgy, for example. They have this group now, like study group, to talk about dramaturgy, but then again, localizing it, and in terms of localizing it, not only focusing on Java, but also other islands. Because I think theater communities in Indonesia is huge, like really huge. I teach them by calling them congregation, like a church congregation instead of, because they're so big, like, you know, like, and it's very rooted, like, you know, communities rooted, because we don't have like professional companies, like, you know, but then again, it's more like communities, but committed or collectives. But then again, yeah, so I think that there has been a sense of, how to say it, consolidating in terms of like how to connect and how to discuss, and then how to do other practices. Yeah, I think exciting times for theaters now in Indonesia. But I think it would be, maybe it's about planting seed, like now. I don't know, maybe they back to divert. I mean, because I'm kind of like outside, yeah, not really insider. Although now in Rojas, you know, we look at a specific history of theater in Negros Island, because
tell us a bit. What is history on that island?
Gosh, I think Negros Island is it was they have this there was this time in 1986, so 1 year after, no, I think in 1985, there's a small town, it's called Escalante in Negros Island. And if you know Negros Island, I think there are two Asian American artists, you know, researching about this, Enzo and Emilyn. They were part of our platform as well. I mean, if you're interested, I can give you some link later. And it's Negros Islands is known for its sugar, as a sugar land. It's a sugar plantation, and which is has a lot of baggages from the colonial era, because it's you know, it's the landlord and the peasant relationship that is always been tense. And it's so in 85 there was this massacre of a peasant farmers in Escalante, and I think at the time 20 people instantly dead, but then again more victims, you know, yeah, how to say, more victims in the coming days. And it was only 1 year before Marcos fell from the power. And this, starting from 1986, I mean, they have this grassroots the grassroots farmers workers theater. It's called Teatro Obrero, which means like workers theater. And they do this. They've been doing this reenactment of this particular incident, tragedy every year, every year until 2016, 2007, even 2018. But last year it was then. You know, the politics, the present politics. I don't know if you followed, you know, Philippines politics. They try to intervene this tradition. So it's so it's this kind of like theater as movement, as political movement, is really rooted there. And but also then we reflect on a bigger how do you say it, a bigger movement from the Philippines, PETA, which dated back in 80s. Then it's actually they have a big influence in the region, in Singapore and in Indonesia, and perhaps also in Thailand, clearly. So during the last platform, we asked artists to do some research about it and then to present these findings. Yeah. So it was quite a special moment for us.
Do you feel it is a moment in the Asian region, instead of looking to Europe to say we want to be in France or in Berlin or in Rome, or to go to New York? Do you feel it's a region in the moment is connecting to itself, it's discovering itself, and is experimenting with forms without necessarily looking to the outside world, but to more towards its own tradition and new forms of experimentation?
I think because I think the legacy, the connection, the Euro-American influence is there always, and the connection, I think, in the 80s, at least in Southeast Asia, the connection already started, like, you know, or even much earlier, like maybe in the 70s. But then again, I think what's so different is the distribution of the work, like, because I think starting maybe. I think in 2002, for example, Singapore opened this Esplanade, like big art center, like, you know, in following the likes of Lincoln Center. I mean, and then really the intention is to be the center of Southeast Asia, which I think I would argue that Indonesia already did it in '68 with the same vision, but it was a different time. And also the Philippines also did 1 year, even 1 year before, like, you know, the center of Philippine arts, like they built this really beautiful center. But then again, there's a new momentum, you know, the last 4 or 5 years when maybe you heard, like, you know, in Gwangju, they built this Asian cultural theater, like, you know, really big. And then in Taiwan, they have even like, they built 2 already, and they're still building another one. So so all these sprouting new centers across Asia, then they need production, and this new, I don't know, awareness, consciousness that, you know, we need to really know. We don't know anything much about you know, about each other. We know more about Bertolt Brecht than Ko Pa Kun from Singapore, for example. And why is that? So then we kind of like, you know, revisited, kind of like changing our practice and maybe our travels and our priorities, maybe also desire to to get in depth with it, across the region instead of like jumping across the water, like straight away. So yeah, I think that kind of momentum, not so much about, of course, I mean, along the way, the aesthetic, questions, the aesthetic exploration came along, but it's more about, the recognizing that there are a lot of localities, and also the awareness of not not really thinking others in a national terms. So there is no such like Japanese theater, but but more like who are the person and what is the history, and is there anyone rewriting the history? Because that's more interesting than than only looking as a national block as before, I think.
So in a way, you look at the region as an archipelagos with lots of islands that are connected and not just belonging to one nation, but to one cultural or artistic sphere.
Because this Asianness is the question of Asianness has been there, like in dance. I felt it like, in the since like early 2000, like 2002, we start asking about this Asianness and the impossibility of this term, because once you travel to Europe or outside Asia, you are, first of all, I mean, you are recognized or identified as an Asian artist. But for us, what that's supposed to mean, because we don't even want English, even English, the way that the language that we communicate is not our language, so we start realizing the impossibility of using that kind of term.
Since you said since the early 2000s, the question of the Asianness, what did you discover? What did you find out about the work in the region, and what its idiosyncrasies? What is the
I can only, I mean, maybe in general, like, like you survive the intercultural practices in the 90s, because not only, because intercultural practices in the 90s among Asian, like, you watch this kind of work like King Lear by Ong Keng Sang, and or Daniel Young, or all these artists, and now what, like, because, and then you realize that maybe we still adopt the old the same methods and the same approach that these Euro-American directors approaching Asia from previous decades. So then I think the process, the thinking process of realizing that as a moment, and then also realizing that it has to be something with travel and encounter. You can't just like imagine. You can't imagine. We know it. But the thing is, before 2000, traveling across the region is so expensive. I mean, I remember thinking in early 90s when I was a student and I was working in a production company. At that time, traveling from Jakarta to Hanoi, the flight ticket is the same from Jakarta to Germany. So it's impossible for us to afford that. So it didn't. The traveling across a region, inside the region, it didn't happen until the budget airline kicked in, which is like early 2000. So that's I think that's how it happened, how it unfolded, and then we could start traveling. Even, I mean, to my shame, I mean, I haven't been to, I mean, Southeast Asia, 10 countries plus Timor-Leste, and I haven't been in all. I think there are 3 countries that I still need to visit.
When you curate Asian theater, Asian dance, site-specific ensemble work, what do you look for? What is of interest to you in that work, what you see?
I think it's, of course, how to say it? I've been working with Padmini Chitur, is choreographer from Chennai, the last 3 years. And I think because it's different in every context, of course, like, you know, but the thing is, I look for, how to say it? Artistic integrity, of course. I mean, and a desire to, a criticality, I think, a desire, but also a criticality toward one's practice, and that is based and informed by a reading of, you know, because some kind of reading about the scene and the form itself. So it's not like making word, like, you know, but okay, I have something to say because, you know, the scene is like this, and I think I still can say something about this, you know, like a map about what's going on with the form, and then say something about this. But of course, it is. But of course, I work with a very young, emerging choreographers, and you know, the approach is a bit different. It's more about, I don't know, it's more about, I don't like facilitating, the word facilitating, it's more about being a comfort zone, with them, you know, like as someone to convert, someone that they can convert and talk about their work. And it's a long process because of the education and everything. Yeah.
Do you think this time we are going through now, the time of confinement that also, you know, all Asian countries go through, some of them doing quite remarkably well, actually, compared to the world, or perhaps especially to the US, where we are suffering under a leadership where we feel it is not giving appropriate responses and actually, you know, willfully neglecting to protect its people. But do you think this time of Corona, something will change? Will that, within that network which you are trying to create, do you feel something is changing? Is there a different atmosphere? Or are there thoughts coming out, whether they are theoretical, aesthetically, or creatively? Is there something you detect that is happening now?
I mean, changes are happening now. We are in the middle of it. So it's, no, I'm observing now. For example, like Taiwan, I think is the best country to handle this in Asia. And they never close theater. I mean, a theater still open until, and, you know, but they change everything, like, you know, like only 30% of capacity can be filled, and then everybody has to be, so it's a totally different procedure, what I heard. But isn't that amazing that, you know, they managed to stay open, like, you know, until now? And I don't know, I think the Taipei Festival will kick off very soon, and maybe they will also do, you know, like, so it's just like after so much travel, like, I mean, reflecting on my own travel the last 5-6 years, it's crazy. And now it's stopped, and, you know, and because these 4-5 years, we know all these spots, like, you know, okay, every February you would like to try to go to Yokohama for Tipan. Yeah. And then now, starting from 2016 or something, you would like to go to be in Taipei every August or something. So you have the schedules. And then we have Australia, who start being active again, you know, the last, around the same time. So you know, with all this dynamic, and all of a sudden, you know, everything stopped, and it won't be the same, because these places, these events like festivals, it was so international because of us coming, you know, because of us visiting, because it's not only, because it's all practitioners and professionals, and then they would do like artist lab and whatnot, like, you know, so it's a, so I don't know now that if, I still hope that, I mean, in my heart of heart, I know, I believe this is, it will pass. And we'll just to, how do you say it? Some of us are too overreacting to, you know, toward this, and that's why we're kind of like, we're operating from our fear and our panic.
What is overreacting? Give us an example. What do you mean?
For example, I mean, anecdotal. I mean, my two friends in Jakarta is my ex-housemates, and I think they live in a flat, and then so they once, two of them went to this biggest stadium, like biggest stadium in Jakarta, and then they have a big, you know, park, and there was like nobody, and then they cycled, and there's nobody, and then the guards like from afar spot them and came rushing to them, and then like saying, oh, you have to wear masks and you have to walk like, you know, certain distance, and they were like, it's only two of us, like, and then we've been like neighbors, and then we've been walking already in this close distance anyway for like, you know, the last 20 minutes or something. So that kind of reaction is, you know, to me it's like, instead of like, yeah, returning to your body, because I think that's what you have, and that's what you can rely on, instead of like, you know, I mean, it's so funny in Jogja, the first weeks, people all rush to buy vitamin C, of course, and herbs like ginger and kurkuma and turmeric. In, you know, it's sold out like very quickly, because it's also our habit to do so. And yeah, I mean, I kind of like it, but not if it's coming from panic, you know, but it's coming from, yeah, from calmness, like, you know, from a place, knowing that, yeah, I know my body, I know myself, and yeah, it's moving slowly.
Yeah. Do you feel something changed in you, your view of the field, your view of performance, of dance, of choreography, of curating? Are you going to act differently? Do you feel there's something that will be different, or do you think we just wait this time out and then we reconnect to creating this archipelagos, this Asian networks of theater, performance, and dance?
I think this online, you know, this digital format platform has been always there, like for like some times now, but we never really think it as a language. I mean, some artists already use it, you know, as a language. So it's but maybe there's a lot of possibility in that. I think there's a lot of how to say, examples about it, but I don't want to cling only into this as the new reality. I don't, in my heart of heart, I don't believe it. But of course, it has a function. It has a place. It has a place in our conversation, and it has a place in performances as well. But it's not like, you know, it's not the only one. While I feel that people now, the shifting is too fast. Like, okay, I jump into this and then cling into this because this is the future. So this is like that. What frustrates me is like that, you know, the new belief that this is the future of performance. But yeah, I find myself resisting to that idea because I think it's too soon.
It's
Still too soon.
as you said. So that festival that was postponed, you're working on, you are not at the moment not thinking to present it in a different way. You hope it will open, spaces will be available, and with modifications of audience numbers, more or less you will be able to continue original plans.
No, because our platform is intimate and small anyway. So I imagine it will be easy because we created this platform precisely to respond all the big things that happening in the region. Because I've been into most of these big things, and I think it is, it is important too. But to me, it's like it can only serve, certain purposes, because it tends also to be market oriented, and in many contexts. Certainly in my context, I mean, performing arts, there is no market for performing arts in Jakarta. There's no that kind of dynamic, maybe in the region, only Singapore can say that. And the rest of us are not. It's still very community-based. And of course, the market that we serve is it's outside our own context. So it's always this negotiation, and when you go back home and then it's you go back to your practice. So I think this kind of conversation is missing in this big big platform. That's why we created this, because I think if we really need to know, if we really want to know the region, what is the issue, what is the context, we can't, we have to be there, and we have to start small. We have to be in intimate and safe space. We can't just and maybe only focus on one or two things, like in the Philippines, for example, just one or two issues, and that's it. So it's I think I still think it's possible, because it's if we keep it considerably, keep it as is,
So perhaps this model of what you say of the small things, of the small spaces, could be a model also for artists, in other countries. So tell us a bit about the platform. What is the ideas? What's the vision? What's the manifesto headlines? What do you? What is important for that? What you created already before, but as you say, maybe this will work well in Corona time. What is the vision of it?
I think process is more important than product. And then understanding the localities, the local context, in regards to the, it's very also important than the bigger one, because it started by thinking about who are the Asian artists that are known abroad. And in the first edition back in 2018, we came up with two names, like Pishet Klangcheng and Patmini Chatur, because both of them would have been produced by big theaters like all over the world. Like Patmini was produced by Schaubühne and Shasha Waltz as early as 2001, for example, and they have a presence, international presence. But somehow we know that this international market, failed to see their body of work. Pishet Klangcheng only is known by its collaboration with Jerome Bell, mainly. Mm-hmm. But Pishet has created much more than that. And then there is a trajectory in what he created, and also Patmini. So we kind of revisited this. I mean, in the first edition, because our smallness, we pick only their solo, and even we went to Jogja, and Jogja is vibrant in terms of arts, collectives and But then again, we knew that when it comes to venues for contemporary performing arts, we don't have it. So these artists have to be patient to work with, sometimes in impromptu venue to present their work. you know. So it's so that's also another experience for the artists, you know, themselves. Like Padmini said, Helly, this is nice actually, because normally I only come and perform and, you know, engage in panel discussion and go home. But here, you know, we created such a program that she could meet other artists as well, visiting artists who presented their processes, and she could meet local artists more and more time. And because, for example, it was I really insist that, you know, there were only 2 small things like per day, so there was enough time for people to really enjoy everything and not rushing. And I think that's this kind of rhythm, you can't find it if you go to Yokohama in February, because you always have to be on the move, you know, and then it's always in rush. So it's yeah, it's but it can only happen in small city. That's why we only go to small city, and moving away from capitals and moving away from this yeah, the usual art centers. So like Yokohama is small, but because it's already like has 1-2 big things, we don't go there, you know. And so it's yeah.
No, so this is quite a significant contribution and concept to say we don't go to the big cities. We also finding out also in the US, they don't fully work to support the artists long-term or ensemble work because of economic conditions. And to say we focus on small works, and we also focus on the community, artistic community, but also the community of the place, of the location. Where you are. Jean-Luc Nancy, the philosopher who was with us from France, he said, yeah, why he didn't like sometimes theater, he felt it's like a tourism, you know, you go, you watch, you go home. From the spectators, where seeing doesn't really produce knowledge, and but also from the performers who come in, ding, and then they fly back even the same night when the performance is over to go to the next place. Meanwhile, to spend real time, like to get to know a country or a place, you know, that that is something. And many people we talk to also in Segal talks, you know, whether it is Eugenio Barba in small places, whether it is in Ravenna, the company of from Italy of Marco Martinelli, whether it's work done by Stacy Klein or others who say, yeah, in small communities it does work. We are located there, we are respected, we can create conditions, we do not have to serve the marketplace, and they have a long life. So this is perhaps a model. And also, you know, in small groups it works, like Peter Schumann and the Brett and Babbitt, like models that have been there. And perhaps with the coronavirus, what you dreamed up even before, you know, might be a way to think, also to diversify and democratize the arts and to do it. So how are the audiences? Do the audience in Jogja, do they come and see it? Do they connect to the work, or do you have to build up and slowly educate? How do you?
Jogja is easy. Jogja is easy because I think the arts community is kind of like big in comparison to the city size. And there's a lot of like, this is like university city. So there's a lot of students. But the thing is, I think visual art, although performing arts community is big here and vibrant, but then again, visual arts are more, in terms of events and practices are more pronounced. Like, you know, there's a lot of residencies, and you have biennale, and you have art jog, which is like a kind of like art fair, and but with a difference. That's how I would describe. So, but when it comes to performing arts, it's not on par to that. So it's easy, and it's easy for Jogja when it comes to audience. But in Rojas, for example, we found the audience is students, not even student in college, but, you know, high school students. Although because it's small, I mean, but that's also refreshing for us, because they learn about the theater, their own theater history, because of course they were like encountered, they encountered, they have their own experience, but to have a deeper context for them is something. So it's it's different. And Naha would be, we are very curious. I mean, I've been only there once for research, and Akane, my co-curator, before we decided on Naha, she knew nothing about Naha. She was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know anything. I don't know anything about this. And then so the last year, I mean, she started, visiting Naha much more often. And then we are just discovering Naha. So it's, I still don't want to give it up. And then, because nothing can replace, like, I think another colleague trying to do that is another platform. It's called Karakoa, I think. It's also Japanese and Southeast Asia, because that's also the thing. The last 4-6 years, Southeast Asia became the I don't know, destination for arts in Taiwan and arts in Korea. Japan has been always here, like through the Japan Foundation. So their presence is here. But it's because of the Olympic, they set up in 2014 special funding to connect Japan and Southeast Asia. So this is like all of a sudden the last 6 years we were like, oh my goodness, we were in the at the center of conversation. What does it mean for us? That kind of moment. So yeah.
Yeah, no, so this is really important for us to know that something serious is happening, that perhaps instead to the normal way that these kind of tourism comes, and a group from Indonesia comes and plays at La Mama or a Lincoln Center Festival that's no longer existing anyway, but just maybe to say go there and also spend time in some of the towns and regions where you present the work for, create the work for, and to also get to know a country and the context of the work, and your idea of the small or humble, however one would say, festivals with small productions in small cities. I guess also most probably outside, and some of the site-specific work, what you create outside the traditional theater spaces. So this is a model that can be adapted perhaps also, in an American landscape where it is also, as you would say, like the Jakartas, of the world. It is so much is in the big cities, so much in New York, even so Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, Austin, are coming up. But still, it's a very big country, and there are so many places to be discovered, so many places that have their own histories. Not everybody takes a notice of, and also a performance history, a theater history, and dance and music, and there's a lot to discover. And perhaps it is a model that in the times of Corona, certainly, but perhaps also after the TAC, as we say, the time after Corona, that will get a second look to also produce art, to live a life for an artist that is connected with the community, but it's also meaningful. So what you do there, what you are pioneering and what you are trying to connect is of importance, and it's good for us to hear about. And I hope I will be able soon to come and see some of the work you create and prepare for a year in a small place with local artists, with artists from significant artists, but in communities. So I think it is really a model of a new form for theaters, in the form of producing and creating and connecting, and to give meaning to our lives, and to also root the people in their communities. So this is important. We are close to the end of our talk. And again, I also would like, you mentioned Jeanette Soyat Moko Narwati for connecting us and to saying, it is important we hear the voices, from your region, especially
from
also
far away.
Indonesia, and also that great traditional arts you have. We all should, of course, know more about. So thank you. What is the advice you would give to curators or choreographers, artists or young artists, how should they use that time we are all in at the moment?
It's because I just finished, taking part of a course online course by Padmini. She did this course, eight session, reflecting on her own artistic practice, and it was really nice. And some young artists asked the same question, and I think she gave a golden answer, because she said that, yeah, take time. This is the moment to take time, to slow down and to really think, what you're going to do and where you're going, and then to revisit your practice again, to read again, and then to things that you tend to push aside, in the normal busy days, but here is the moment to do that. And I second her advice. I think it's don't rush. And I don't know, maybe it's easy for me to say this because I'm on the margin anyway, in Indonesia, we don't have such infrastructure. So we know that, when you are committed to do what you do in the arts, and in some ways it's uncharted territory. But then again, for example, you can be very easily seduced, for example, in visual arts, although we don't have this infrastructure. But then again, the market is there in forms of collectors. We have we have quite amount of Indonesian collectors, and then you can easily distracted, going all the way there and not really thinking critically about your own practice. So I think this is the time.
The time.
Yeah.
To slow down.
To
the Indonesian way, as you say, and to learn from your cultural artistic experience from your region, and to really also take that as serious as a way of living. Theater is also a way of life. Theater artists chose theater also as a way of life. And in the America, it's a big provocation. One of the biggest provocations is to say, I'm an artist. This is already a provocation. You say, why? What does that mean? And all that. So doing that, what is of significance, but also then to say, yes, we actually do slow time, we take time, we connect to our communities, we listen, and we engage and create something new. So this is important. Tomorrow we will continue our journey around the globe. We have Dima Mata from Lebanon to hear from Beirut, which is at the moment a very, very complicated, it's important, but also a complicated place where things in the last months seem really to collapse. It seemed there was some way to make things work after this devastating civil wars and all the killings and of politicians and fighting of fractions and religious groups. So it's a complicated time, and to hear how do you make theater, their performances, and
it's like the Philippines. The Philippines is also very
complicated at the moment. And Friday we have Richard Schachner with us as a closure of that 4 months experience what we have here, and we also will take some time to think what to do, how to process all that what we heard. So we will take a small break. So it was really important to hear from you. It was good to see you again. Thank you
so much. Thank you for having me.
And I hope it was as inspiring for you and as it was for us. And it is important, to be connected. And this is something we can do. The world got so small. We have spent so much time in our apartments and we look through windows. But on the other hand, we can also connect globally with a link of a mail. With one click, we are with you and hear your thoughts. So all the best for you, and we trust and hope that the festival might work out the way it's organized. It might had better chances than the Avignon Festival, because this is much more complicated for them. So thank you all. Thanks for HowlRound again for hosting us, Vijay, Thea, and to the Segal team, Andy and Sanyang, and I hope you will be able to join us for the last 2 days. And I think we will be back in September, October, we'll see. So thank you so much, and we'll listen to you again soon. I said, Helly, and to our audience, stay safe, do wear a mask. It really, really does make a difference. And listen to what Helly said and see how could that be meaningful in your own life to connect to the people around you, and how to create a community, to how to take steps, and really also how to listen. All my best, and